You picked up your phone just now. You don't know why. There was no notification. No reason. Your hand just moved. And this has happened to you dozens of times today already. You probably think it's a bad habit. Maybe an addiction. Something to feel guilty about. But the real answer is far stranger than that. And it has nothing to do with weakness or laziness or a lack of self-control. It goes back much further than the smartphone. Further than the internet. Further than electricity. It goes back to the single most dangerous thing a human being could face for most of our existence on this planet. Being left out. Your brain is not addicted to your phone. Your brain is doing exactly what it was built to do. And once you understand what that is, the urge to check starts to make a different kind of sense. Here's where it starts. For roughly 300,000 years, humans lived in small groups. Not cities. Not towns. Groups. Bands of 20 to 150 people, moving together, hunting together, sleeping near each other every night. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar at the University of Oxford spent decades studying these group sizes and found something remarkable. The human neocortex, the thinking, social part of your brain, appears to be calibrated specifically for tracking relationships with around 150 people. Not 1,500. Not 15,000. 150. That number keeps appearing across hunter-gatherer societies, military units, ancient villages, and modern social circles. It's now called Dunbar's number. Your brain evolved to manage a social world of 150 people. That was the entire world. Those 150 people were your food supply, your protection, your warmth, your survival. Knowing where you stood with every single one of them was not a social nicety. It was life or death. And that meant monitoring. Constantly. Who is angry with whom? Who has been gone too long? Has something changed in the group's mood? Is there a threat forming that you haven't noticed yet? Your ancestors who missed those signa, ls, who failed to track the subtle shifts in their social environment, were the ones who got blindsided. The ones who stayed alert, who were constantly scanning for social information, who felt a low hum of unease when they went too long without checking in. Those were the ones who survived. Those are the ones who passed on their genes. You are their direct descendant. And you inherited that scanning impulse. Now place that ancient brain inside a world where instead of 150 people, you have access to thousands. Where instead of checking in by walking across camp, you check in by tapping a piece of glass. Where the social information never stops arriving. Where the stream has no end. Your brain doesn't register the difference between checking whether a rival tribesman has formed a new alliance and checking whether someone liked your post. Both feel urgent. Both feel necessary. Both are processed by the same ancient machinery that kept your ancestors alive. Neuroscientist Meshi at Michigan State University has studied what happens in the brain when people receive social feedback on platforms like Instagram. His findings are striking. The same region of the brain that activates when you receive a financial reward, the nucleus accumbens, your brain's reward center, also activates when you see that someone has liked your content. Social validation and money literally feel the same to your brain. Not metaphorically, neurologically. But here's where it gets more interesting. The reward isn't just in getting the like. The reward is in the anticipation, the checking itself. Psychologist B.F. Skinner demonstrated this decades ago with what he called variable ratio reinforcement. When rewards arrive unpredictably, sometimes you check and something good is there, sometimes nothing, the behavior becomes almost impossible to stop. Not harder to stop, almost impossible. Slot machines work on the same principle. You don't know if this pull will pay out, so you pull again, and your phone works exactly the same way. Sometimes you check and there's a message that makes you feel connected, seen, wanted. Sometimes there's nothing, but you never know which it will be until you check. And that uncertainty is precisely what makes the behavior so persistent. Your brain isn't seeking distraction. It's seeking certainty in an uncertain social world. It's asking the same question it has always asked, thousands of times a day, since before language existed. Am I still in? Researcher Larry Rosen at California State University has spent years studying what he calls the I disorder, the anxiety that builds when people are separated from their devices. In his studies, Participants who were asked to put their phones face down and not check them showed measurable increases in anxiety within minutes. Their heart rate increased. Their focus deteriorated. And the primary driver of that anxiety was not boredom. It was social uncertainty. The feeling that something might be happening in their social world that they weren't aware of. Your ancestors would have recognized that feeling immediately. That low-level hum of unease when you've been away from the group too long. That pull to go back to check in to see what you've missed. The phone didn't create that feeling. It just gave it a new surface to land on. There's another layer to this that almost nobody talks about. Your phone doesn't just deliver social information. It delivers social comparison. And comparison is something your brain is extraordinarily well equipped to do. In a small tribe of 150 people, knowing where you stood relative to others was essential. Who had more status? Who was gaining it? Who was losing it? That information determined who got first access to food, to mates, to shelter, to protection. The brain that tracked social comparison carefully had an advantage. A real, measurable, life or death advantage. Now consider what happens every time you open a social feed. You are immediately presented with curated highlights from dozens or hundreds of people. Vacations, achievements, relationships, bodies, meals. Every scroll is a comparison event. And your brain processes each one the way it was always meant to process social comparison, as information about where you stand. Except the information is distorted. Nobody posts their worst Tuesday. Nobody shares the afternoon they spent staring at the ceiling. The comparison isn't between your real life and someone else's real life. It's between your entire experience, including every private failure and uncertain moment, and everyone else's highlight reel. And your ancient brain doesn't know how to correct for that. It doesn't have a filter that says, this is curated. It just processes it as social reality. Psychologist Leon Festinger, who developed social comparison theory in the 1950s, could not have imagined a machine that would deliver thousands of upward social comparisons per day directly into the palm of your hand. But his core finding still holds. Humans compare themselves to others automatically, involuntarily, constantly. It is not something you choose to do. It is something your brain does before you even register it happening. This is why you can pick up your phone feeling fine and put it down feeling vaguely bad, without being able to explain exactly why. The phone didn't make you feel bad. The ancient comparison machinery in your brain did. The phone just gave it more data than it was ever designed to handle. So what do you do with this? The first thing is to stop framing it as weakness. You are not failing at self-control. You are running software that is 300,000 years old in an environment that has changed completely in the last 15 years. That is not a personal failure. That is a mismatch. The second thing is to understand what your brain is actually looking for when your hand moves toward the phone without permission. It is looking for social safety. It is asking whether you are still connected, still valued, still in. And knowing that changes what you can offer it. A real conversation. A message to an actual person. A moment of genuine connection rather than a scroll through simulated ones. Your ancestors checked in with their tribe because they had to. Because the tribe was everything. Because outside the tribe, there was nothing but cold and dark and predators and silence. You pick up your phone for the same reason. Because somewhere underneath all the apps and notifications and feeds, your brain is still standing at the edge of camp, listening for voices, making sure the fire is still burning. And the fire, most of the time, is still burning. You just have to remember to look up from the screen to see it.